This is all too familiar for the Toronto Blue Jays, and they are being dragged through the dirt yet again for the pursuit of a top free agent. So, we'll break down what's going on and much more with Pete Alonso on this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. Welcome in, everybody, to 3 Up, 3 Down. I'm your host, Peter Vrionis, and the Pete Alonso saga is never ending, or at least it seems like we're coming to a conclusion, but maybe not the right conclusion for the Toronto Blue Jays. But before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button. The support has been unbelievable. We're very close to 3,000 subscribers, and I owe it all to each and every one of you who take the time to comment, like, subscribe, and just take the time out of your day to watch these videos. So shout out to you guys. But the news that I really wanted to get to, and I had a feeling that this would happen because Pete Alonso wants to be a New York Met. That much has been made clear. And even though it's never been directly said, it's pretty obvious with the way that these negotiations have gone down. So Steve Cohen, a couple of days ago or a week ago or so, said that he is fed up and it's been an exhausting process with Pete Alonso and Scott Boras in terms of negotiation. But today, according to SNY TV, Steve Cohen is reportedly back in conversation with Pete Alonso's camp. So look away, Blue Jays fans, because it is happening yet again. The Toronto Blue Jays are being dragged through the dirt uh, in the pursuit of a free agent that would drastically improve their team, but it might not end up mattering because Pete Alonso wants to be back with the New York Mets. So that's what's going on. And then we go further down the list. Francisco Lindor endorsed the front office and Steve Cohen to bring back Pete Alonso. Says he'd prefer the Mets keep him around. I know the quote is a little bit cut off, but that was by John Heyman right there. So a reliable source, of course. And it's happening again. Back to square one for the Toronto Blue Jays. We don't know the particulars of what their offer is. We don't know what the Mets' offer is either. But the fact that this is happening yet again, that the Blue Jays seemingly had him in the bag, according to all of these sources, and I'll use air quotes again because none of these guys really had sources. They were just throwing stuff against the wall and hoping that it would stick, but it never did stick. So Pete Alonso is currently a free agent, wants to go back to the New York Mets, a team that went to the NLCS last year, as opposed to a team that missed the playoffs and won 75 games in the Toronto Blue Jays. To me, it seems like an easy choice for Pete Alonso to make, and he wants to make that choice.
So, as I was saying, I think Pete Alonso really wants to remain with the New York Mets because the offer's been on the table for quite some time now. And from everything that we've been hearing, it's a significantly better offer that the Blue Jays have as opposed to what the New York Mets have been showing to Pete and to Scott Boras. So, I look at all those optics and I just see it the way that if he wanted to be a Blue Jay, it would have been done by now because he's not getting a better offer anywhere else. The market has not been too kind to Pete Alonso or to any Scott Boras client, really, that is not named Juan Soto. So I look at that and part of me feels a little bit of disappointment because now it feels like the Blue Jays are not going to get him. And being a Toronto Blue Jay fan, I just don't think the Jays are in the pole position as they were just a couple of days ago. And from the Mets side of things, from the Mets perspective, I look at it in the sense that, now they have all the leverage. They waited and they called Boras and Alonso's bluff. And now they're just saying, okay, go sign with Toronto. If that's what you really want, if you're going to nitpick over a few $1 million, go ahead. Take the high road. My way or the highway is basically what the Mets are saying. And that is what this quote is saying from Jeff Blair on the Blair and Barker show on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. I think if he were to come to the Blue Jays, he would have come by now. So it's still, I wouldn't say an outside chance, but there's still a possibility that this does end up happening for the Blue Jays if Pete and his camp feel disrespected by what the Mets are offering. But to go from it's been an exhausting process to this, back in conversation with Pete Alonso, that to me, all signs are pointing towards him going back to the New York Mets. And you can't help but feel a little bit slighted if you're a Toronto Blue Jay fan because all of those fake sources and those imminent messages that we've been seeing on Twitter and on social media, they were a lie, and it was yet another leverage play that the Blue Jays fell victim to. Now it's not a done deal. It's not a foregone conclusion that he's going to go back to the New York Mets, but you can't help but feel that the writing is sort of on the wall here for the Blue Jays. All in all, I mean, this entire situation has gotten absurd. And yet again, the Toronto Blue Jays are right in the middle of it for all the wrong reasons. I mean, Pete Alonso is the perfect fit for this team. Maybe not positionally, but when you look at a team that is starved for power, starved for offensive talent, Pete Alonso fits that bill, and he may not be the most complete hitter in the Major League Baseball, but what he does do is he mashes. And the Blue Jays already added Anthony Santander, who hit 44 home runs last season. You add Pete Alonso, whose floor is probably around 35 home runs. So that is an extra 80 home runs that you're adding to a lineup that struggled immensely to score runs last year and to just produce any sort of firepower 1 through 9. So when you see things like this, I mean, it's definitely a stab to the heart for the Toronto Blue Jays. And I mean, there's no way that you look at that and don't roll your eyes if you're a Blue Jay fan because it's like, oh man, here we go again. Steve Cohen, he's getting whatever he wants this offseason. The Mets are a wagon, and they're getting a ton of players. They're addressing a ton of holes. The Blue Jays have tried and tried and tried, and it's just not good enough. It's just not enough to get them over the finish line with these marquee free agents, and it's definitely disappointing if you're a Blue Jay fan. It definitely is. So let me know in the comments down below, guys. Where do you think Pete Alonso is going to ultimately sign? If I had to give you my prediction right now, I'm going to say the New York Mets. It looked like it was the Blue Jays just a couple of days ago, but talks have started to ramp up, and you got the Mets star player, Francisco Lindor, urging Steve Cohen to get this deal done and bring Pete back. So setting up to be another heartbreaking loss for the Blue Jays before the season actually starts. And I'm sorry for the late upload, guys. I had a bit of computer trouble this morning. My laptop died on my way into work, so I wasn't able to get this full video recorded in its entirety before my shift. So bear with me. Sorry for the late upload, but I will be back at the scheduled time tomorrow at around 1 p.m. Eastern. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you all tomorrow.